Welcome back to Rodecast, guys. Hope y'all doing well out there. I'm your host, Rod, as always. And in this video, we're going to be talking about a deportation story of a different kind. So usually on my channel, we're talking about some kind of third world peasants who are being shipped back because they broke into our country illegally and they're crying about it. Their open borders liberal counterparts are crying about it. But in this case, we're going to be looking at an American family who has been ordered deported from Canada because of certain legal rule violations that they have committed. And my reaction to this video is going to be very similar to the ones that we're talking about when people are being deported from America, because every country has rules that the people who move into that country have to obey. And if you don't obey those rules, then you can be deported.
For 15-year-old Stella Fig, this could be her last soccer game on Canadian soil.
Well, I mean, I've lived my whole life here, so it's like home.
Stella was born in the United States, but moved to Canada when she was a baby. Her parents moved here for work 15 years ago with Stella and their son. Ever since moving to Canada, the parents welcomed 4 more children. For them, Canada is all they know.
So it's really challenging to know that I might have to restart at zero.
But after coming back from a trip to the U.S. on Monday, Alice Fig says they were stopped by Border Patrol.
We were being given 2 weeks to pack up our house, to sell our house, to liquidate our assets, and to leave Canada.
It turns out their work visa was expired. Federal documents show that the parents, along with their 2 American-born children, must leave the country by September 8th.
That's the shock. That's where the emotion comes out.
So I don't know how it's a shock when you know very well when your visas are supposed to expire. I mean, if it's so important to you that you had kids in a foreign country and you decide to build a house and build a life there, but you didn't know that your visas, your work visas, your permits were being expired at this date, how could you possibly not know that? So these are the kinds of questions I ask of like Mexicans who are whining about something. Usually it's illegals. These people are actually legal immigrants, okay? But they knew that their expiration date was coming for their work permits, but they did nothing or they couldn't renew it. So let's say they tried to renew it and they couldn't, right? That means that Canada no longer wants you there, which means you have to leave, okay? You can't say, oh, I've lived here for 15 years and I worked here, so therefore Canada must allow me to stay here perpetually forever. No, you're not Canadian. You weren't born in Canada. Your ancestors didn't build Canada. You have no right to permanently live in Canada. The Canadian government, who's supposed to look after their people, which they're not doing a good job, by the way, they're allowing an Indian invasion right now, but that's a different story, okay? But in this case, the Canadian government is enforcing rules that are on the books. The Canadian Immigration Service specifically is enforcing the rules, very, very clear rules, by the way. They knew when their expiration date was, yet they either couldn't or didn't do enough to fix their situation, their legal status, and so they're getting deported. Now they're kind of complaining about it. They're not as bad as the illegals in America, the Hispanic illegals who are always whining. They're the most entitled people ever. These people are a little bit less entitled, if I'm honest, but also still a little bit sounding a little bit entitled, okay? Canada does not have an obligation to serve you. You are guests in their country. You need to get your asses back to America if you want some kind of entitlement. Whatever privileges you have, those are in America. You were born in America, you're an American citizen, but you decide to go to Canada. Okay, I don't agree with that, but okay, that's what you decided to do. You don't have birthrights in Canada because you weren't even born there. Okay, so don't try to pretend like Canada owes you anything. This is the kind of attitude that Mexicans who break into this country have, that they have a right to be here. You don't have a right to be here. You don't. Okay, you have a right to be in Mexico. That's where you're born and that's where you belong. I got the same thing to say to these people, and they're white people. I don't care how white you are. You don't have a right to break into Canada and stay there forever. And now they didn't break in. They went legally, but now you're no longer legal. Your work permit has expired and Canada wants you to leave. Now don't complain, just leave. Okay, if you can't fix your legal situation, then that's the situation you're in. And it's not that horrible. You're going back to America. You're going to be okay.
Where the emotion comes out as just being dismissed after all that we've done to work to be here legitimately.
The family tried a few times to apply for permanent.
Yeah, you were there legitimately, but now Canada wants you to leave. So you have to leave because it's not your country. You're guests there, so act like it. They were kind enough to let you in and work there. Work to build your life, by the way. You didn't do anything for Canada. Canada helped you build your life. Okay. So don't pretend like Canada owes you anything, because it does not. Okay. It does not. The Canadian people are the only people that the Canadian government owes anything to. You are Americans. You belong in America, but you decided to leave your country and go to Canada. So that's a you problem. Don't try to put it off on the Canadian Immigration Services and try to blame them for deporting you. They're deporting you because you broke the rules. You have been living illegally in their country after going there legally, fair enough, but you are now illegal. Much like the Mexicans that are being deported out of America, who are never legal, and they're illegal, so they're being deported. Okay, so kind of similar situation, although not the same, but similar.
Residency, but to no avail. Brent Figg says in the past, after their work visa would expire, they were usually given a 90-day grace period to reapply. But this time around, that wasn't the case.
So we were well within that window.
One immigrant.
Yeah. Also, the immigration services in Canada are also well within their right to deny you the application, because they no longer want you to be there. You lived there for 15 years, okay? And taking a Canadian job, by the way, whatever job you have, that could have gone to a Canadian citizen. So don't pretend. They were giving you a kindness. They were doing you a favor by allowing you to live in Canada. So don't try to act entitled. The Canadian government owes everything to their own citizens. They do not owe anything to America or to Americans. The American government owes you something because you're an American. But other than that, the Canadian government doesn't owe you anything, and the American government doesn't owe the illegals who broke into our country anything. Okay, the citizens of the country are the only thing that the government of that country works for. The Canadian government works for the Canadian people, or supposed to at least, and the U.S. government works for the American people.
Immigration lawyer who does not represent the family says there is a chance they could stay in Canada.
What I would explore with them is an application under humanitarian grounds, which, that's a system we have in Canada that will allow an immigration agent officer to consider the file as a whole.
Though the Figs moved around before, since 2017, Quebec has been home. The kids are enrolled in French schools, made friends, and planted roots in the Eastern Townships community. But now all of that is in jeopardy.
Our kids are in shock. Yeah, they know what's happening. The Canadian kids did go back to school this week just to say goodbye to their friends, just to have some last contacts.
CTV News reached out to Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada on Sunday, but did not hear back in time for broadcast.
Okay, and they have no obligation to respond to some local network. But anyways, the point is, every single country has rules and regulations regarding letting foreigners in. That's not just America. That's Japan. That's China. That's Canada. That's Sweden. That's all the Middle Eastern countries have very strict immigration laws. This is how the world is, okay? But people pretend as if America, when we deport people, that it's the most evil thing in the world. Right now, we got a whole bunch of white people from America being deported out of Canada, and I have the same reaction, okay? Because I have principles and I apply them equally to everybody. I don't care how white they are. You have no right to be in Canada. You're Americans, get your ass back here. That's my response, okay? You broke the rules, or they just don't want you there. Even if you follow the rules, it doesn't matter. By the way, they didn't, okay? They didn't renew it, and they were living illegally there technically. Your work visas expired, so you had no right to be there, okay? I feel bad for the kids. I have nothing against them, obviously, but don't complain after the law has been applied to you fairly by a country that was nice enough to take you in and let you live there for 15 years. So please don't act entitled when you have received a kindness from this country. Okay, so I got the same message to the Mexicans who are whining and the white people who are whining. When you break the rules, you get deported out of whatever country you're living in. Okay, so to this American family, I say welcome back to America. Okay, most likely they're going to be deported. Sad day for you, but you can rebuild your life here. Your kids are going to be just fine. Okay, America's not that bad, and we're cleaning this country up as much as possible. So you can find a good place here. But anyways, my point is, don't break the rules. If you're going to move to a country, follow the immigration laws and you'll be fine. If you don't follow them, don't be surprised when you get deported. That goes for literally everybody. It doesn't matter how white or brown or black you are. You're going to get deported if you don't follow the rules. And that's the bottom line. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you guys in my next video.